It's so good to see you for a full review of the Cadillac Xt4. It has to face the test on the German Autobahn. How does it rate to the bigger Xt5? How does it rate to the German manufacturers? Let's see and let's go. In the front we can see this really bold front design, glossy black Cadillac logo, symmetrical design, and a special orange color here for today as well. Then we have these vertical daytime running lights, really impressive, typical Cadillac styling. And indeed this front styling is also one of the main reasons people go for this vehicle. Do you like it?
And the turning indicator in the front, really impressive because it replaces then the daytime running light all the way over this vertical scheme.
While I tell you the length, guessing game here, famous on our channel, decide from which side I will enter the stage today. You have some more time. Length 4.60 m, 15'1" or 181 inches. And ta-da, it's from the front. So you can see here this side profile. The color is, by the way, called Autumn Orange. Cadillac logo here. It's more like a Transformers style, right? Isn't it? Then crossover wheel arches. Wheels come from 18 to 20 inch, 20 inch optional then, and these are also 20 inch style here. It's the sport trim level. The sport trim level also upgrades the normal base suspension to an adaptive suspension, which then varies according to the driving modes. We'll soon find out more about that in the driving part. Tinted windows here in the rear. Overall a very clean look. In the rear we see once again a very consistent design. I really think they nailed it with this one, because the daytime running light in the front is in the vertical way, and the same time here for the tail lamps here, then with the red signature, so I think really cool. Of course at the moment a little bit bright in the daylight here. Then contrasting lower part, this looks really sporty. I mean, although we have a diesel version for the day here, of course petrol version and for the US, here, look at this exhaust pipe. It looks like taken from a V8 petrol, right? Really impressive and not fake at all. Interesting also that we have two rear view cameras basically. The normal rear view camera here above the number plate, and then there's a secondary one under the rear wing, and this one then is for the normal back mirror, which can be seen also in a digital way. Also show that to you in an interior part. And also very nicely done here that the rear wiper is also hidden behind or underneath the rear wing. That's a very clever integration.
And the turning indicators at the rear are actually right here, interesting, pretty small and somewhat integrated in this whole vertical light structure.
However, we see light and shadow not only with automotive design, but also here, as I said, clever integration of the secondary rear camera and the rear wiper right here. But then I found out this. Not sure if the Cadillac engineers were maybe distracted thinking of something else while building this. Engines, well, you pay around $10,000 less here for the Xt4 than for the Xt5, but then you only get 4 cylinders, either a 2-liter turbo, petrol engine, 4 cylinders, 240 horsepower approximately, front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, the petrol with cylinder on demand, and then you have the 2-liter diesel in Europe with around 170 horsepower, both with 9-speed automatic gearbox. Yay! We have a gas strap to hold it open. Car key looks like this, nothing new, flat and with a matte design. I think it's better than this high gloss design, definitely. Then door closing sound. Oh, actually quite good. Inside of the doors with a soft touch leatherette. Lower part then is hard pack, and here on the inside of the door you can decide if the rear electric hatch will open in the maximum height, 3/4, or off. This interior today all in black, but there's also a bright interior styling available, and the seats in black or bright also available animal free with a high grade leatherette. This one, however, is the one that also has animal skin shares, but it's hard to differentiate indeed. So steering wheel, typical Cadillac design with logo in a symmetrical style. Left side then here to control the cruise control. Right side, for example, for the volume. And we have an interesting carbon fiber style here for today in this sports trim. Here you can control the head-up display for the height, up and down. Also nice clicking sound. So that's a good build quality there. And also an easy way to control the head-up display while driving. Soft touch dashboard here and also here. So that's what I like so far from the build quality. Getting inside with the famous Autogefuel shoe tip, of course. We don't want any dirt in the vehicle. So, and you sit already quite upright. In the front, doesn't also make too much of a difference to the Xt4, for example. So you already have this upright SUV driving position. Steering wheel up and down in an electric way. Also electric control for the seats we have here with the electric lumbar support. And so overall, even for tall people, quite good position. 1.86 m or 6'1", and this is the headroom I have left then. This one equipped with the panoramic roof that does cost you some headroom, but then it also gives you a lot of light perspectives. And what you can do is you can close this shade for more sun protection like this, and on the other hand you can also open the whole thing here to leave more air in, and you see the opening is actually quite notable. Interior overview, once again, soft touch dashboard right here, it's very nicely done here as well, so very good interior build quality. Small 8-inch screen, but I think the size actually, is still enough. There's a practical home button, so you can always go back to the home menu right here. Found this still cool. And also here the climate unit is somewhat still manual. Turn on the engine, you can see it even a little bit better. So easy and straightforward user interface. Seat heating, seat cooling here in the lower area. Not possible both at the same time though. Steering wheel once again with good handling. Controls, told you more about that earlier. Then here analog gauges still, and in the middle part you have a screen 4.2 or optional 8-inch and higher trims. Soon also more to the head-up display. Further down here in the middle part you slide this open to put your smartphone in, but this is a very narrow space, so you have to squeeze it in, and USB-C and A to control then, or to connect then to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And here shifting lever, 9-speed automatic gearbox. Cup holes are not adaptive, but quite narrow here also. Then you have another choice to the touchscreen. This in the lower area here, this turning and pressing knob. So this could be to control the infotainment system while driving and not having to use the touch as an alternative. Why not? Mode selector for the driving mode, soon talk more about that. Another cover for the armrest, well attached, and underneath more space, also in the split, even with an inductive charging pad. But then again, you mostly would have the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay cable connection anyway. And one of the highlights for sure, we know it from Cadillac for quite a while now, is here the digital back mirror. So you can here, you can either have the normal mirror or then the screen, and you can also adjust it a little bit in brightness, in zoom factor, but usually leave it zoomed out, or then also here in the height. So really what you prefer, want to look more down to the road or a little bit more far ahead. And in this case it's really practical, because otherwise the view to the rear is somewhat limited. Here the instruments, left and right side analog, brom brom. And in the middle part, then the digital part. You can have the digital speed in there, but also some average figures, for example. So you're somewhat flexible like this. You can also have some GPS information, that's possible, but it's definitely not the most modern system. And the head-up display is very clear to read, and you can easily then change the height of the head-up display. Yeah, that's fancy to see, right? Whoa, that goes high. Yeah, really funny. But of course, you just set it in a way that it's pleasing to you. And now more details to the screen here. Once again, controlling it from the lower area, this is possible, but also from the touch area, this is also possible. Then you see here the responsiveness is actually quite good. So we used to have pretty weird Cadillac infotainment systems, and this is definitely a big step forward. Also easy as for the menu structure, not too overloaded. Easily also with the access to the Apple CarPlay, for example. And the Bose sound system here, there's an optional Bose Centerpoint sound system available, and that one is delivering us a quite interesting sound. It has a really heavy bass focus, 13 speakers, but you can also adjust the bass a little bit in the menu, of course. So overall, I'm actually very happy with that. Back to the main menu with the button here. Climate menu can also be accessed right here when the vehicle is running, but once again, I mean, there's no reason to do it from here, but yeah, takes a while in this case. But of course, interesting, legs a little behind now, so no reason to do it from here. You always do it from below. Nevertheless, you also have the normal rear view camera, and this is then more showing you a picture from below. This is more helpful when parking in and out and really see that you don't touch anything. Also with a 360-degree camera in the higher trims or as an option, and it also has a very good resolution. As for the rear, what's interesting is that at the rear doors on the inside there's also soft touch material. That's really good, nice. And then here, for tall adults, it gets close. As for the legroom, the seat would need to be a little bit more upright, and then I do fit in here. I can still drive like this in the front, but gets really close. Headroom wise, here it also gets close, hitting my head here on the roof. So yeah, it's really close and for tall adults here in the rear. Isofix at the outside each. Then there's an interesting attachment from the seat belts here to the seats. That's when you fold the seats, you know, they're basically kept in place and they are somewhat secured. Interesting, but looks a little bit weird, doesn't it? And on the middle part here, you can fold out cup holders. They're also somewhat adaptive. And sitting in the middle part is, hardly possible. I mean, same headroom, but then with the knees gets really close. And also, as for the seat belt holders, they are we put in a way that they are too narrow right here. So yeah, that hurts a little bit. In the middle console here, you can also get seat heating for the rear passengers, and once again the mix USB-C, USB-A. Trunk area with an electric tailgate, 640 up to 1,400 liters or 23 to 49 cubic feet, depending on the setup. And then the length here is about 33 inches or just over 80 centimeters. And that's also different to the Xt4. The Xt4 has more luggage capacity. It's 21 centimeters or 8 inches longer. Of course, longer hood in the front, but also longer overhang in the rear. But here then, the Xt4 goes in the width about 38 inches or a little bit less than 1 meters. That's actually okay. And the height up to the cover is 16 inches or 40 centimeters. Then you can put up here the floor. You can also fit a replacement tire, and when there's a cabin trolley in it, this is an even loading sill, of course, but you can see even a cabin trolley in a vertical way still fits in. And I already folded one off the seat as a half split, and the total length then, the folding ruler is our signature move, old school style. Then here we are at 63 inches or 160 centimeters. Overall, very well usable. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Cadillac Xt4, and I'm so sorry for that, but when you visit me town, you gotta respect me roads, That means, just translation, German Autobahn for the American vehicle. You have to do that when you're here. So, mode, sports mode, and we also have a little bit more tune, so to speak. Gears are turned up higher and so on. Everything optimized for that. And let's see how it goes from 40 kilometers to whatever, and also noise insulation and so on, high speed behavior. Let's go. That's 150 kilometers an hour, so like 90 miles an hour. Yeah, of course not the biggest acceleration, didn't expect that here. We are driving the European available diesel engine for today, but there's also a 4-cylinder. In the US you get the 2-liter turbo petrol engine. That's also a big difference then to the Xt4, where we get the 6-cylinder still. That would be a reason to pick the Xt4. And I have to say this engine here sounds really, really loud. Then about the noise insulation, leaving the engine aside, you know, yeah, it's getting quite noisy in here, so clearly this car is not laid out for higher motorway speeds. In the sports mode, the adaptive suspension which we have here also is a little bit stiffer, so the lane change is easier then. Yeah, but the car shakes up quite a bit, but not as much as it would do in the normal driving mode then. Now let's hit the brakes. We're actually performing quite well. Not the best brake feeling in it though. Then we go back to the so-called tour mode. Then the adaptive suspension is also a little bit softer and the car is shaking up a little bit more. Here, direct difference. There's no one around me, so no one can think I'm crazy. I'm a part crazy, no, otherwise I wouldn't do this channel, but yeah, you get the picture. So I'm not crazy because there's no one around. I'm not endangering anyone here. Sports mode, a little bit stiffer, more response. Do you need the adaptive suspension? It's always a question of money, of course, and you only get it in the sport model, so-called sport model, sport trim level. Yeah, I think you can also go with the base version in a way that this car pays off when you rather buy it low spec. Then it makes sense to be okay with the 4-cylinder in comparison to the Xt4. Then you're actually gaining from that price, the low price, and also can go with some lower spec. That's my opinion about this vehicle. Here now in the tunnel you can see how is it with the lights here and so on, controlling everything with the infotainment system. We do have these analog dials with the digital speed in the middle. I think it's okay. Why not seeing some analog dials from time to time? We have so many new vehicles with digital gauges only, and here we kind of have both. Head-up display is clear to read, that's the most important thing, and also really cool to control it while driving. It's so easy to put it up and down in your line of sight, whatever you prefer or what your height is. So that's a good feature, easy control, left next to the steering wheel. Then you have the digital back mirror and the normal back mirror. I usually prefer normal mirrors, especially for the sides. Remember that episode with the Audi e-tron where they introduced the digital side mirrors and then, wait a minute, later on nobody talked about it and I have never seen an e-tron with digital mirrors again. Could it be because it's a complete failure and they realized it? Maybe. Yeah, but back again then, for the side it's really bogus. For the top here, it's a different thing. So on the one hand, you always feel more disconnected when you see something happening on the screen. Why? Our brain is used to that when we see things on the screen, which is the truth, they're actually most of the time not real. They're not happening live in your own eyes, in your own reality, in a way. And you feel you're a viewer of that. When you are in a vehicle and see something happening on the screen, on the camera mode, you are viewing that. You're not experiencing it. That's the difference. Normal mirrors in our brain have the sense of this is what we experience live. It is directly connected to us. When we see a screen, it's more like seeing a computer game. That's the problem of digital mirrors. The advantage here, however, is the view to the rear is kind of limited. So when you have the digital mirror activated, you have a clearly better view to the rear. So for this vehicle, I think it's an improvement. It's good also to have the digital mirror. I would usually have it activated. Second advantage is if you have the rear fully loaded up to the top, you guys who have 2 kids, you know just what I'm talking about. Then it's also a big advantage to be able to see clearly, although everything is packed. When you're going to the beach holiday, yes, at some point in our dreams we can go to beach holidays again when the whole COVID situation is over. When you're watching this video in 7 years, by the way, mark it in the comments, like still watching in whatever, 2025, 2026, and say like, oh, people thought about going to the beach at that time and they couldn't do it because of Corona. Yeah, I hope when you watch this video at the later stage, it's all over. At this moment of the production of the video, still Corona times. Then we think about things like these as, oh wow, can we go on holiday again sometime? Yeah. That's the thing. Back to the car. So when you're standing still, you also hear the noise of the engine, but that's a little bit more specific to the diesel engine. Yes, the petrol engine is, from what I've heard from colleagues, also not the most silent one, but definitely a little bit better than the diesel engine here. Fuel economy here, that will be relevant for our European viewers when you get that one with the diesel, 7 liters and 100 kilometers. That's about 30 mpg US, 40 mpg UK. Not too good for a diesel engine though. So seating position is actually quite upright and comfortable, so I like that. Although the seats are a little bit short for taller people, they could be a little bit longer as for the front seating surface also. Overall, it's a quite compact feeling in this vehicle. It is a compact SUV. In Europe, in US, it's more a small SUV. In comparison to the Xt5 feels a little bit more sophisticated as for the driving experience. However, as I said earlier, the main difference is that you have a longer trunk. You pay about 8,000 to 10,000 euros more for the Xt5 at least. And the big difference is, of course, that you can get the 6-cylinder. That does change something in the driving experience for sure, especially if you drive a little bit more performance-oriented also. But this is not the car where you would see a big performance orientation, so that's, again, not the biggest issue as for that. Here now in the tunnel, you also realize that it's getting quite noisy, so once again, noise insulation is not the best. So in our fierce German Autobahn test, we're taking all the cars from all over the world. This one is not performing in the best way. To me, the best thing about this car is really the look on the exterior. It looks so bold and stylish, and transport this American way of life, some kind of tradition as well. So now at the 100 kilometers an hour, we'll accelerate once more. Here in the tour mode, you hear that the engine is not that loud, and now also just two-wheel drive acceleration. That's 130 kilometers an hour now. So different driving modes here. Tour mode stays usually in two-wheel drive mode, so front-wheel drive only. And so the rear tires can be decoupled, like in the Quattro Ultra all-wheel drive by Audi. Front plus rear on demand. Then I have an AWD mode. This is then where I always get also push from the rear, which feels a little bit cooler while driving, but it's also using a little bit more fuel. And then the sport mode, which is also, of course, occupying the rear wheels to get best traction on the ground, to get the best of the acceleration out of this vehicle. And then there's also the off-road mode, which is also then messing with your ESC and so on, that you can get better out of loose stuff. So good to have these driving modes, definitely. Really have to say it's quite loud in here, so noise insulation is not on top of the game. Suspension so far is actually doing a quite good job. So also when we had some bumps on the road, it wasn't getting way uncomfortable or something. So that was also quite okay. Visibility to the front, the A-pillar is quite thick, but overall in this area is actually okay. And to the rear, I really enjoy the digital mirror right now, because this is definitely giving me a clear view. Now getting off the motorway, and I haven't talked about the steering, and to me it actually feels quite good. It doesn't have a big dead zone area, it reacts, gets a little bit more progressive to the outsides, so actually I'm quite happy with that. Maybe it could feel a little bit more naturally, but also in comparison to the competitors, I think it's actually quite fine. Rest of the controls while driving, climate unit is easily accessible, still with this manual function, so that's good. On the steering wheel, can make it louder or more silent with the volume, that's okay. Adaptive cruise control we have also set, and that's easy to control here on the left side with your left thumb. This rubber surface here for the button is not the best as for the build quality, but you can live with that. Adaptive cruise control this car has, it also has a blind spot monitor. I couldn't pay attention to that yet on the motorway. Maybe have someone overtaking us? No, I think when we were in a tunnel, probably you have to scroll back and then see if that did flash. So it's built in the side mirrors when the car is overtaking you. So that's they offer the most important assistance systems here, and so far they're also doing a good job. The lane keeping assist wasn't that intrusive so far, but if you feel at some point and saying like, this is really annoying, You can also easily deactivate it here while driving. There's this button where you can deactivate it. You just have to hold it a little bit longer to deactivate, so it's not like click on, click off. Hold it for quite a while, and the reason for that is probably that they say like, yeah, we don't want people to accidentally deactivate it. But then again, you have to say, okay, if that's not that straightforward as for the user interface and yet you have to hold it quite a long time, is that maybe more distracting then? So yeah, that could be a thing. Other than that, as for shifting, you can do that with a central shifting lever here, 9-speed automatic gearbox, both for petrol and diesel engine. However, what's also possible is using the shifting pedals here. So if you want to do a quicker acceleration and want a little bit more RPM, or if you're going down it for a longer time, you can also shift back yourself. And now our agile driving up the hill, up to Autogefuel's peak or Thomas's peak, not Pike's peak for this time. So, and we're going up, see a little bit more about the steering and so on, and actually that the car is a little bit more compact and lighter and smaller is of course good here. Yeah, I mean you move less vehicle, less weight, and that indeed feels lighter than the Xt4, for example, for sure. And if you now compare that with, for example, the BMW X1, the Mercedes GLA or the Audi Q3, that's probably a thing where it sets, where the Germans are set most apart. They just have better driving agility. So I think two things. Again, never said that German cars would be the most reliable one, and I'm not an advocate of the German automotive industry. Just by driving it, I can see that they are more agile to drive, more fun to drive, and the look and feel of the interior is better than we see here in the Cadillac. These are two facts you can definitely say, no matter where you have been born, so it doesn't matter that I'm a German or not. It's not that it's not fun to drive here. I enjoy driving every single vehicle. It's actually quite good, and why not? But it's not a very special drive and not also a special fun driving experience. So from the driving part, we can say that noise insulation should definitely be better. The engine performance, and especially the engine sound, is pretty weak. Everything else is not really that bad, but rather in a mediocre state as for the driving experience. I would get this vehicle if the Xt4 is too expensive for you. You still want the Cadillac look, and if you compare it to the German vehicles, I think this should be cheaper then, definitely cheaper in the offering. In the US it's possible, because it's built there in Kansas, that you can get it way cheaper than the German competitors. In Europe, however, I see it's getting a hard time, because I gotta convince myself why I should pay the same price for this one when I get the same price, Q3, the X1 or the GLA. But what's your opinion? And now to our conclusion for today with the Cadillac Xt4. From the exterior, really likable design, strong and bold front, daytime running lights and so on. Also interesting color for today for sure. So the exterior would be one of the main reasons to go for it. And of course, if you compare it to the Xt5, it's just shorter, easy to get it along in the city and so on. But then you also have the shorter trunk. That's the main difference. As for the practicability, then of course only 4-cylinder engines available here. With the Xt5 you also get the 6-cylinder. Interior build quality is actually quite okay. You also have two different animal-free seatings, both in black and in the bright styling with the high-grade leather red, so that's possible. The user interface is actually quite okay, so we can easily get along with. Most is straightforward in the user interface design. The space you have on the interior is also actually quite okay overall. The driving experience is more or less the weakness of this vehicle. It's not bad at all, but it's rather mediocre. Steering is actually quite good. Suspension is also okay, here with the adaptive suspension for today. Engine performance, especially here with the European diesel we have here, is really not that good. It's not that performant. It's also extremely loud. So the overall driving experience, not a fan of it, but it's also not bad. The question is really about the pricing. In the US, you can actually get a quite decent pricing, even below $40,000, and then it can make sense as as something different to the German premium manufacturers, and also as something small to the XT5. In Europe, the reason would be to drive something different. Hardly anyone has this car in Europe, so if you want a special exterior ride, someone say like, I'm driving something different, that might be an argument for it. Driving wise and from the look and feel perceived quality, it hardly can set anything against BMW X1, Mercedes GLA, or BMW X1, Mercedes GLA, or the Audi Q3. So yeah, that's more a question than of uniqueness. The German premium manufacturers are definitely delivering a better driving and more agile driving fun experience. So, but I hope you enjoyed nevertheless our German-ish test for this American vehicle for today, and I hope to see you also tuning in next time.